Am I going to get attacked?
No.
Are your followers going to come after me?
Oh, no. I'll tell them to not.
Okay. Tell them we're friends.
Okay.
We're not here to battle each other. That's the next one.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the Jaden Jeffs Podcast. Today I have Olivia Olson with me. I have been shitting on the Mormons a little bit lately, and I said that none of them dare come on my podcast. None of them will talk to me about Mormonism. And Olivia reached out and offered to talk to me, which I want to thank her for. And obviously, I'm going to be somewhat nice to her. If you guys wreck me in the comments, I'll have her back and I'll be mean next time. But today, I'm going to be somewhat nice. This is how I'm going to lure more Mormons in, by being really nice to you. And then I'll lure more in, and then I'll be mean to them. Is that a deal? Yeah. I'm just kidding. No,
it makes me feel a little scared.
I'm joking. I will be nice to anybody that comes on the podcast. Respectful, right?
Yeah, totally.
But Olivia, if you want to introduce yourself and say anything you want to say to start out.
Sure, yeah. My name's Olivia. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I came across one of your podcasts, and I heard you saying nobody will come on, and so I thought,
no Mormons.
No Mormons will come on, and I'm definitely not like an expert in all topics, but I really love learning about religion, history of religion, studying different theologies and things like that, and so I thought maybe we could have some productive discussions. And
Olivia sent me an email, and then we met up at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Where we basically just kind of agreed to disagree on a few different things, and we're like, okay, we'll do a podcast.
Yeah, we talked for 2 hours or something.
Yeah,
it was a good.
That's generally how my coffee shop visits go.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was a good conversation. We got into some interesting topics, and I felt like, you're a very respectful person, and you're not just trying to attack, people you're talking to, which is
okay.
Good.
So for the viewers, this might seem like an odd question, but how Mormon are we talking here? Or
me?
Yeah. Temple marriage, right?
Yep. I got married in the temple in September, so pretty recent.
Oh, just this last September?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I would say you could probably consider me a newlywed.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. I grew up in the church. I grew up in kind of the suburbs of Utah, you could say. So I feel like I was kind of right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Kind of my whole life. We moved around a little bit throughout Utah. And we also lived in Elko, Nevada for a little bit. But when I was heavily involved in the church all growing up. And then when I was 18, I moved out right after I kind of graduated. And that's kind of when I had some run-ins with leaders that I had grown up with that were really negative experiences for me. And then I moved out, and that's when I kind of started being like, oh, what do I believe? What is this? So I had a period where I don't know how much detail you want.
Yeah, so you had a period where you were down in the church.
Yeah.
Maybe thinking about leaving. Did you say shit about it? Were you, sorry, I'm swearing.
That's okay. That's okay.
Me swearing is not going to bother you.
I grew up, my parents, kind of on both sides of our family, they're the only active members minus my grandparents.
Yeah.
And so all my aunts and uncles, they're, they're not out. Yeah, okay. They're out, my cousins. So I'm used to, I grew up with extended family who cuss
My biggest concern about you being such a newlywed, having this conversation is I might change your mind about the church. Yeah. I'm just kidding. Then you and your husband might leave the church.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Know.
No.
You never know.
I wouldn't want to do that to you.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Maybe we'll bring you over to the dark side.
Okay. That's fair. If you can do that on this podcast, hey, not only will I give you the rest of my whiskey, but
no, that's not really my goal, I feel like, with us talking. I feel like It's more, I think a lot of times our religion gets a bad rap, and so I feel like
it does.
My efforts are more to say like, hey, we're not crazy.
Yeah.
Like there's logical reasons to this belief, and it's not just the simple you believe in a man in the sky kind of a thing. Like there's actual rational reasons behind the belief. And so
yeah, I grew up so Mormon that, well, it wasn't LDS obviously,
yeah,
but I would consider it Mormon. So Mormon that if somebody said like shit or fuck to me, like my gut pinched up and I was like,
oh really?
you know,
Yeah,
that's how people coming from the FLDS are.
interesting. Okay, yeah, I
And along that same vein, you could think of the way that the church originally got organized, and you know, polygamy and all the other things in the early church doctrine. It in the same intensity that I would not like to hear you swear back then. I also believed in all those doctrines versus looking at the Mormon church and kind of looking at their rationalization of everything.
sure.
And just kind of being a little confused about how many loose ends there are in it all. It's kind of how it feels like to me.
Yeah.
And I guess for me personally, religion is kind of bullshit to some degree. I was talking to this Mormon guy the other day, and he was being kind but making a slight attempt to convert me.
Yeah.
And I says, look, man, I don't believe in God. He was asking me to go pray. I was saying, like, look, I don't believe in God. He's like, you got to try it anyway. Anyway, I feel like I'm to the point where I kind of am almost not a believer in religion anymore.
Yeah, just religion. So, like, would you say that your belief is more along, like, an atheistic kind of belief? Or do you think you're still a theist? Or, like, do you believe in some type of
I believe in
greater...
some type of energy organizing the universe.
Okay.
You could say some kind of higher power there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, like, I'm not against the idea of God, but I think if God exists, he is not
in the form we claim.
Absolutely not a human, or like so much greater comprehension than a human in some sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your kind of diversion from the church.
Sure.
This is what I'm most interested in first about you. Like, you started doubting the church probably because you have a bunch of friends and family that are like swearing, and maybe did they look like they were having a better time than the people in the church?
I feel like growing up, I did kind of look at my, aunts and uncles or cousins and kind of was like, oh, I want to be like them. Like, they're really cool. And it seems like they have a good time, but I don't necessarily feel like the reason I was becoming, disillusioned was because of them, if that makes sense. I feel like what it came to was removing myself from the environment I had grown up in that felt safe. I was living in another state. I was on my own. And then I was also witnessing, I had just had this kind of negative experience with a leader I was extremely close to. And then I moved. And then I was kind of witnessing, I guess what you could say is the culture of people in religion. I was witnessing kind of the negative aspects of that. And I also started to do a lot of research into, the LDS history, religious history. I read Rough Stone Rolling.
It's not a good Mormon rabbit hole to go down, really.
Yeah.
It's not exactly how you strengthen your testimony, is it?
I actually think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can get into that.
Which is, but I think for me, I was definitely in a place where, like, I was not going to church because I thought the people at church were not being representatives of Christ. Like, the interactions I had been so negative that I just was like, this is not what I want to be a part of, kind of.
Oh, that is going. I almost thought I forgot.
So sad.
Okay, yeah. Let's keep going.
And so, I was just doing a lot of research. I was studying a lot of like Stoicism and just different kind of religious beliefs. I got really into like Native American history and different things like that. And I kind of just got to a point where I wasn't anti-Mormon at all. Like I was still a member of the church, but I was not actively participating in
So you've never
it.
got to the point where I'm at, where I'm just like shitting on Mormons sometimes, like getting all flustered about them.
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't say that no.
You were always like, they might be fine.
Yeah, I feel like my issues were more with the hypocrisy I was seeing.
Yes.
And different kind of biases I saw in the way people were kind of constructing their arguments for the belief. And then also just history of the church. I was really struggling with polygamy and different things like that. And so it's kind of a combination of a bunch of different things.
As a Mormon, how does it feel, or how often do you go somewhere and they offer you alcohol and you decline? How often does that happen? Like it happened today, but
sure. I would probably say, I mean, I think it depends on where you are. I've recently I went on a cruise.
Yeah.
And so I was offered alcohol a ton on the cruise. We went on like a little sailboat and we're doing the little Congo line, and they've got like the tequila ready to pour down your mouth kind of thing. And I'm like, 7-Up, give me 7-Up. Stuff like that. But then like, me and my husband, we ski a lot. And so a lot of times we'll be just chatting with some random person on the lift, and they offer us, some alcohol or a Zin or whatever. So I would say it probably happens, I don't know, a fair amount, but not like every day or something.
Sure. I feel like LDS versus like FLDS, they handle, because the gap isn't so wide, they handle being in the world a lot better.
The LDS do? Yeah,
like me being offered alcohol, this is going to be a story I'm going to tell my grandkids if I live in the FLDS.
Yeah, okay.
But
you're just a little more removed from that environment.
For sure.
Yeah, I feel like when I was a kid, I felt that way more. Like, I remember hearing my dad say the word sexy, and I was like, oh, Dad. and then he was like, it's fine, like, and so I'm like, hey, this rug is sexy, look at that sexy lamp, like totally took advantage of the freedom I was given, know. But
I feel like I would have just like gone to my grave if my mom would have said that or something.
Interesting.
Because sex is so forbidden, or the talk of it, and it is in the LDS too, but I mean, just like you, I mean, that's an example. You thought that word was like dad.
I was also like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And so I feel like part of it is just
growing up. And
I also feel like, as far as the LDS kind of like topic on sex, I don't necessarily feel like, in my experience, it was super like, we do not talk about this. Like, I grew up in a family that was extremely open to questioning things. And I think part of that is because, like, all of my parents' siblings were, not active members.
How Mormon is your dad?
I don't really know how to answer that.
Do you consider it rude for me to say Mormon?
No. I mean, like, I'd probably prefer like LDS or something, but I'm not offended by you using that word or something. So
yeah, I'll try to say LDS more.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I doubt I will come to that.
That's fine.
If you come on another time, then I might have come to it by then.
Yeah, that's okay. No
so
worries.
you don't know how to describe how Mormon your dad was?
I think it depends on what like your definition of Mormon is, right? Like, he believes,
like how into it are they?
Like,
they're making
they
decisions.
Go to church.
They're making decisions based on the coming of Christ soon.
Sure.
That if you're really Mormon, you're preparing.
I mean, This is a hard question. I'm
Yeah.
not totally sure how to answer. Like my parents, they go to church. I think
Every Sunday.
Probably not every Sunday.
It's fine to skip once in a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are involved in their, community and neighbors, I would say a decent amount. In conversations, my siblings, I have 2 siblings. They're not active members also. They're younger than me.
So your parents have 3 kids?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm the oldest.
I feel like if you're really, really Mormon, you got to have like 8 kids.
Really? I don't know about that.
Neither do I.
Yeah. Maybe they would have had more.
Assumptions.
My mom had health issues, complications, and so.
How Mormon is your mom? Are these questions too personal?
No, I don't think. I think they're just hard to answer.
You're just not sure what I mean.
Yeah, I would say. Like, they are both members of the church. They would bear their testimony of Jesus Christ.
I feel like we can discern how Mormon somebody is if I go to dinner and they try to convert me.
I don't think my parents would do that, no.
How about they get to know me for 3 days? Maybe?
Well, I think it also depends on what you mean by convert. Like, I don't think they'd just be trying to preach to you all the time.
Yeah, not that, but just like leaning into it, seeing if I'm open to the conversation.
I don't know.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, it's so hypothetical, Like, my parents, my dad is really close to all his siblings, and I think he kind of stands up to his beliefs, but he doesn't impose his beliefs onto my siblings, or even like...
Oh, your siblings aren't apart.
Yeah, my siblings aren't apart, and neither are his. So, like, if he's hanging out with his siblings, he's not going to be like, oh, you shouldn't be drinking alcohol or something.
Yeah.
Like, he's just going to be like, you know what I believe. I'm not going to force something on you unless you want to talk about it. We can talk about it.
I feel like based on what you've told me, I would give your parents like a 4 out of 10 being like
really?
Insanely Mormon. And I'll tell you why. I know a lot of people that have been bishops.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of making the discernment off what I know about them. Dude, their kids are almost always at least, if they have 6 kids, 5 of them are still active in the church.
Yeah.
And one of them's like, they're praying for them really hard.
Yeah. I think my parents pray for all of us kids.
Yeah.
Well, I think they want the best for them. But...
I mean, like, in a way of, their soul.
It's like, the devil, like, if their opinion was more like, oh, they're doing bad things, like, the devil's gotten to them, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
No, I don't think my parents, and I wouldn't even say that a lot of people in the religion are that way. I think there's kind of, you get those crazies everywhere,
Sure.
Where it's like, oh no, my child has questions, and that means that they're, looking at anti-Mormon literature and all of this stuff. I don't feel like, I don't think that's how I would define a Mormon, if that makes sense.
Sure. I feel like if you live in Rexburg, you have to at least be 5. On this. 5? Oh yeah.
I live right by Rexburg.
I know.
Yeah, don't tell people where I live.
I won't. Okay, I'll cut that out.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just some places in Utah and Idaho and places where you have to be at least 5 out of 10 to even live there. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like even in my area, like, my neighbors aren't active, know?
And then I've got, there's one neighbor who it's like they come to church every, maybe twice a year or something.
See?
And so I don't know.
I don't understand. Like, some people, a part of the church, tell me, oh, you need to be at church every Sunday. And then I talk to people like you.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, if you come to church twice a year, we're not bitching about it.
Yeah.
But, and it's fine, and I don't understand, like, is the bishop not pursuing these people or is it just chill? Like, if I join the Mormon church
sure.
and I come to church twice a year and pay half my tithing, am I good?
Well, I think it's a lot more of an individual relationship with God than like your outward appearance to other people. I think that's the goal with the theology. And so, I mean, I would say, like, if you believe in the religion, if you were a believing member and you only went to church once a year and you didn't pay your tithing, I would say there's room for improvement. You know what I mean? Like, if you really believe in something, I think you strive to behave in a way that, like, correlates with that belief, if that makes sense.
Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 24.
24.
I'm 24. I just barely turned 24.
Okay. Yeah. How old is your husband?
He's 30. He'll be 30 in December.
Okay.
No, he just turned 30.
Okay.
I know these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I would count on you to forget your husband's birthday.
Yeah, would you?
I'm just kidding. Will you forgive me for saying that?
Yeah, you're
okay.
fine.
Will your husband forgive me?
I'm sure he will.
Okay, thank you. I was just thinking, like, LDS people get married young. How much did the church's influence on you getting married young?
Yeah. I think I've, you feel pressure from people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like a lot of the pressure was from myself. We dated for, I think, 3 years, which I think in Utah people would say is kind of unique. I think it happens probably more than people realize, but we dated for a while. We were kind of off and on a little bit and then got married. And I think for us, we felt like, well, we have these certain opinions on marriage that we want to, follow, but we want to make sure that this decision is right. And so we had a lot of stress just over, like, should we do this? Like, are we the right people for each other? And that's one of the reasons why we dated for so long.
I can agree with the amount of time that you were dating. Mm-hmm. Like, that seems solid. 3 years. Yeah. Like, we have some reports of 6 weeks coming out of the LDS church.
Yeah, sure.
And us FLDS people, we hold the record. Like,
do you?
it's a matter of hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I like that you're going 3 years. You're starting to warm me up to this idea of Mormonism, but I think it's, to me, I think it's just a lack of doing what they want you to do to some degree.
Oh, okay.
But
how I kind of went about it is?
Well, yeah, like, they want you to get married faster. Would you agree? Like, the leaders want you to get married faster.
I would say that the goal with the belief is to marry somebody that you're going to be able to have a successful life with. And I think also you want to be able to start a family. And so, if you're getting married at 40, it's a lot harder to do that. But I don't necessarily feel like I felt pressure from leaders of, like, you need to get married, like, right away.
No, I know what it is.
What is it?
It's they want you to get married before you have sex.
That is true. Yes. That is true.
Is it too personal a question to ask if you did that? Yes.
Probably is.
Okay. That's totally fair.
Yeah.
But you get I feel like that pushes a lot of marriages that aren't truly made for each other. They're not a good match.
It's kind of like just because you have the impulse to have sex with somebody doesn't give a good enough reason to marry that person.
Exactly.
I totally agree with that. Totally.
And somebody can fool themselves thinking we got to get married, and we can't do it outside of marriage. Like, if you're really a believer in Mormonism, mm-hmm. and you're trying to abide by the law of not having sex outside of marriage, then
I would say that that's something people struggle with for sure. But I would have a hard time thinking that, like, people are getting married just because they want to have sex. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of emotions going into the whole marriage. Like, that's a big commitment to just want to have sex with somebody.
I feel like I should push back on this a little bit here.
Sure.
Because what I'm seeing right here is you grew up with, it feels to me like you grew up with like 4 out of 10 solid Mormon parents. I feel like if your parents are 8 out of 10 solid, like, you got to do this, then the pressure is going to be a lot different.
Yeah.
And I'm making that discernment coming from a 10 out of 10
Sure.
Mormon place, but I guess it feels to me like you're misreading the pressure a little bit of half the Mormons.
Are you kind of saying, like, you think a lot of people's experience when they get to a age where they can get married, their parents are kind of like, well, you're dating this girl, like, don't do anything wrong and get married right away. Like, that's what you need to do. Yeah, I'm sure people have that experience. I had that experience with some of my bishops while I was dating my husband, and his family too. It's like, what's going on, you guys? What do you mean? Well, they were just kind of like, what? Like, why are you still dating? Like, come, like, you want to move on? Like, move forward. Like, let's get a move on things. And I think we just internally felt that too. We're like, what are we doing? Like, we're kind of just sitting here. Like, we need to be moving in a direction, right? But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing, but you see, like, the bishops are going to push it towards marriage.
Sure, yeah. Well, but I also think, like, our bishops were looking at it from, like, you're a great person. If you want to be committed to each other, go ahead and do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that is wrong? Or...
Well, okay. I know this.
I'm just trying to understand what your point is.
Okay, we're going to talk about this a little bit more sexual stuff.
Okay.
Take, for example, when two people are dating.
Yeah.
There comes a lot of times where these young people get close to sex.
Okay.
And if they get too far, then they think they need to confess it. And when they confess it, they're corrected, and then that reconfirms to them that it's wrong, and then they want to hurry get married. I dated a girl that was LDS, or I've dated a few that were LDS, but not for very long because I'm too. I say what I think too soon. You know? It's like, do I want to take a whole year and get this person to leave, or just like tell him?
Well, I think that's
I'm just kidding.
Probably a better approach,
I know.
Jaden.
Thank you for the advice.
I'm going to lure them in, and then when it's too late, tell them what I really think about their belief.
No, it's more like I'll plant doubts in them about the church.
Oh, so
and
it's malicious.
Pretty soon they'll be like, I'm leaving. But
like
no,
leaving
I
the
wouldn't
church
do
or
that.
leaving you?
Leaving the church.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't do that. I'm never manipulative. Do you trust me on that?
I don't, but
okay.
But that's not because I don't think you're trying to be insincere. I just think we all are manipulative.
Yeah,
you know?
that's fair. Okay.
Or can be.
But you know the stories, kind of the cultural ideas about, like, the kids on the college campus. Everybody knows that at other colleges, sex is kind of a thing that everybody's kind of exploring. And I'm not arguing that that's like the right thing or a good thing.
Sure.
But we all know that at the Mormon colleges, there's
like stricter rules against that.
There's stricter rules, but there's also, like, you know, all the fairy tales about soaking and...
oh, yeah.
Okay, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say on that. But the argument I would be making is that those aren't coming from nothing. They're coming from this underlying culture.
Those behaviors aren't coming from nothing?
Yeah, the rumors and the idea and the culture of these kids trying
to get as close as they can.
To me, this is trying to be good and trying to fulfill your desires.
Yeah.
And it makes an insane justifications. Like, this obviously doesn't make sense, but to them it does.
Okay.
You know, and that's why people kind of mock it, mock the sexual behavior. And I feel like maybe this wasn't your experience as much, but I do feel like this is common on LDS, like college campuses. And look, I'm not even judging it right now. I'm just asking your thoughts on it because it's obviously there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I like understand kind of what you're asking. Yeah. You're kind of talking about the church has standards, and because of those standards, there's been a culture created where it's like we want to get as close to,
it's natural.
Yeah, kind of like as close to going over the line as we can.
Yes.
And so it creates this weird rationalizations of like these weird behaviors.
Yes, where the kid is they want it, but they're trying to do right.
Yeah.
In their mind, they're doing their best to do right.
Sure.
And so they're making up these weird justifications.
Yeah.
And that's where the idea of soaking comes from, or these
Right.
other odd sexual kind of ideas and behaviors.
Sure. And so your question is?
My question is, how is it healthy? And
okay, how is that behavior healthy?
Here's what I would argue.
Yeah.
I would argue that, one, it's pushing these kids into marriages that they don't know if they should have.
Yeah.
Like two people that aren't compatible, it's pushing them into marriage.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would argue, though, is that it's not the LDS church doesn't help children or young adults understand their human nature to a point they can appropriately deal with it. They're saying it's evil and you shouldn't have those feelings at all until you should. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so my argument is kind of that the church doesn't allow an individual to fully deal with their human nature, including their sexual desires. Mm-hmm. And those desires are suppressed, and they manifest
they come out in weird ways.
In weird justifications.
Sure.
And I would argue that you even see like a lot of spiritual justifications, like this feels right. Like I felt inspired to do something with this girl, or
sure.
A bishop saying I felt inspired to get close to this bishop, like or to this girl. Mm. I think those are coming from like their young years not being able to healthily process the sexual side of their human nature. And so now they have this justification going on through when they were a young adult, and now they're a successful person, and now they're a bishop. And how do they justify any sexual desire? In order for it to be right in their minds, it has to be coming from God. Any kind of sexual desire that they want justified, it needs justified through spirituality. And so, like, a lot of times you'll see in abuse cases, which I'm not arguing the church is like has a ton of, but I'm making the point of why you'll see this coming through bishops. It's all that happened, all that suppression that happened through their young adult life, and now they're a bishop, and they don't understand that their sexual desires, the only true way for them to be honest with themselves and for those desires to manifest is through spirituality. And if you're in a position of authority, it's considered revelation in some sense. But I would say, like, you don't have to like answer about the bishops.
Yeah.
But do you get my argument about the young adults?
The suppression of.
Yeah.
I do understand. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think if there is a situation, I mean, you see this with parenting, where like the parents put down a rule, right? And the child is like, I'm gonna, because I think part of it is they don't see the value in the rule, right? Yes. And so I think that happens. I think I've had experiences of like, I don't understand this commandment, so I'm gonna like kind of push against it to see. So I don't think don't think I agree with what you're saying. I think it does happen where, because certain kind of commandments or rules are put in place, people will naturally feel like this tendency to push against that, right?
Yeah, we as individuals, I feel like we have to have a way to let our sexual desires manifest.
Sure.
And I would argue the more strict a culture is, the more insane their justifications will be. And so I've seen this pretty up close, and I've felt it within myself. I've seen it within myself.
I think I've experienced a very similar thing to what you're
And
describing.
my argument against Mormonism is that not only on the sexual front, but every front of dark side of human nature, it does not allow you to process it. It forces you to punish it, and they manifest through odd justifications and odd behavior. That's one of my core problems with Mormonism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying makes sense. I have a few, I don't feel like I'm going to prove you wrong or anything, but I do have a few thoughts on that topic.
Yeah.
One of my thoughts is I think there's a difference between culture of people and the theology. I think there is a huge difference. And I think sometimes I also feel like leaders in the church have talked about this, for people who are punishing others because they did something wrong, that's not really their job.
Yes.
And also, just because somebody did something wrong doesn't mean that
just because somebody did something wrong doesn't mean the church supports it.
Sure. I think when it comes to, if you do believe in the LDS theology, it makes sense that there are certain standards that you also believe in. For example, not having sex before marriage. There's reasons behind that. It's because if you have sex, there's a high chance, less so now, that you're going to get somebody pregnant. And also, the kind of emotional experience that goes into connecting with somebody in that way is seen as sacred. And so it would make sense why it's you shouldn't do this until you're married. But I think then people struggle because they're well, I have these natural impulses, right, that don't feel bad.
Yes.
And I think what has been taught, and I'm not saying that everybody has had this experience, but for me, the impulse is not bad. You feeling this way is not bad. What you do to handle how you feel about that can be better or worse. And so I think sometimes people think oh, I'm having this really natural feeling. That's so awful. I'm evil. And I really don't think, even in talking to my parents, when we had the talk, growing up, my dad was maybe this is weird to say on a podcast, but he's sex is an amazing thing. It is beautiful and it is wonderful, and it's for a certain time of life, if that makes sense. And so I think there are ways where you can handle you should have standards that you're living up to. And just because you have different impulses doesn't mean those are not natural or bad. But I think how you're going about handling them and your understanding of those things can be bad or good.
This is why I'm having you on the podcast, because I'm trying to understand LDS culture better.
Yeah.
And, you telling me that about your dad, he said sex is amazing, Yeah. And I know that might, for her dad, if her dad is listening, look, this is important. We got to have a serious conversation about this stuff.
Yeah.
But to me, it's important because you would never hear that in an FLDS home.
Yeah.
And you would also, I really feel like you wouldn't hear it in like real devout Mormon families.
See,
but I don't know
would
that.
Yeah, and I would say that my family, like especially, I think my parents have become more relaxed in some ways with my other siblings, because my other siblings maybe handled religion differently growing up and maybe pushed back in different ways against my parents. But I feel like I did grow up like in a devout household that, you know, we studied the scriptures, we, you know, went to church, we, you know, and so I don't think I can say that just because my experience was different doesn't mean that's what like most people's experience is or isn't. Because I had friends who I'm sure, you know, their parents were a lot more strict and maybe didn't talk about certain things at all. Whereas I have other friends where they were even more open with their kids. And so I don't think it's necessarily like the LDS theology's fault for how humans take or interpret the information given. I think there's right ways of interpreting it and there's incorrect ways. And I think that happens everywhere, kind of.
Do you want me to tell you the difference between LDS and FLDS?
Sure.
In a kind of weird way.
Yeah.
You said Mormon theology doesn't necessarily justify their culture. You know, the weird things that I've been talking about.
Okay.
Like, you know, that's kind of the point you've been making a little bit. If you're in the FLDS, well, you just barely told me one of the reasons that you don't want to have sex before you get married is so that you don't get pregnant.
Sure.
Right. And that makes sense.
And it's a sacred thing.
Right. It's sacred.
It's meant to be between a man and a woman. And
yeah. Like and like Christians would agree with this stuff. But if you're in the FLDS, your reasons go much, much, much deeper than it's sacred and you don't want to get somebody pregnant.
Okay.
Like those would kind of be side things.
Okay.
Your reasons would be, we're trying to become gods, and if you touch one of the daughters of you know, one of your sisters, like, because we're all considered, we come
brothers
from
and sisters
right,
of God,
exactly,
kind of,
right. If you touch one of your sisters without like being married, and well, I wouldn't say touch, but like, you know, sexual relations,
sure,
then that literally makes so that you, according to the teachings of like Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, you cannot enter the highest degree of glory in the celestial kingdom. You will be able to enter the lower degrees in the celestial kingdom, but not the highest one. And
that's interesting.
I'll tell you what, like the high leaders of the church, from my conversations with
of your church or the FLDS,
yeah.
or
okay, the higher leaders of the LDS church.
Okay.
From my conversations with like bishops and other stake presidents and things, they have this belief, but it's very rarely talked about. It's not a Sunday school thing. And so that, to me,
they have the same belief. They have the same belief as the FLDS when it comes to sexual relations.
When it comes to the highest degree of glory in the celestial kingdom, the apostles, I think, would share kind of this view. I would love to talk to one and ask for sure. Yeah. But it's my understanding, like, to most of the people in the LDS church, this would kind of be the reason would be it's sacred and not get pregnant. For the higher people, I think, that really read a lot of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, and I know like a lot of apostles, like the church kind of has distanced themselves from a lot of things Brigham Young says. So I don't know about that, but the idea is more, you literally cannot live forever. Because, you know, if you don't make it to the highest degree of glory in the celestial kingdom, then you will go to dissolution.
See, and Yeah, I don't think I agree with you. I understand what you're saying, but I think that literally takes out like one of the most fundamental beliefs of the LDS religion, which is repentance. And so I think if it was a type of thing where you made this mistake, so you're damned. Like, I just don't, I think there are people in religion who have held that belief, but I don't think that's what, like, I feel like I've heard lots of talks where, apostles in the church have been like, if you're struggling with this, you're not going to just burn in hell. Like, Christ loves you. Christ wants to see you, repent and kind of come back to him so you can move forward, And so I think, like, if in FLDS, if it's like, yeah, you do this one mistake, you are going to hell. Yeah. I don't think that's what the leaders in the church teach, and I don't think that's what the religion teaches either, because repentance is like such a fundamental belief of the gospel, I guess.
I would argue that generally, if you're even in the early days of the church, mm-hmm. if you were considered a moral person, mm-hmm. like your tendencies in your early life were to get married, like you had strong Christian values. You'll see this in like a lot of the apostles' biographies, like mm-hmm. Party P. Pratt or other apostles. They'll almost always witness in their biography that they were of high moral character in relation to sexual things. Okay. And it's almost always tied in. Like, if you weren't a part of the church and you had sexual relations or something, but mm-hmm. you were generally a moral person, like, they would kind of consider you worthy of, because this is it kind of ties in, I would say, to like the second anointing that most of the LDS people have no clue about.
Yeah, I actually don't know that I know what that is.
Yeah, like, but I would say if you're going to get the second anointing, at least in the early days.
Is the second anointing like getting your endowments? Is that what, or?
No, from what I understand, like the church, it gives you your endowments. Yeah. But the second anointing basically in Joseph Smith's teachings, it makes so that you are worthy to come into the presence of Jesus Christ. Oh, okay. And I'll have to study that one. That is something that kind of has been a little bit, like, I don't know what the church is standing. I don't know if the church quietly does this for like the apostles. I have no idea. Yeah. I would love to ask an apostle about it. Yeah. But like, if back in the day, mm-hmm. if you were going to get your second anointings, these were going to be some of the judgments put on you. Like, what were those sexual relations like?
Yes. That's why like there's a higher, it's like, it would almost be like the closer you get to having a better relationship with God, there's almost like a more pressure for your behavior, Is that kind of?
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like, the more you know, then the higher requirement you'll be held to. Right.
Yeah. I think that's totally, I mean, even just like being able to enter the temple, when you take out your endowments or get your endowments, like, you're kind of agreeing to uphold a higher standard, but that's something that you're like trying to enter into. And I still think that they're like, if you make a mistake after kind of,
after you
committing, I still think repentance is like a major part of that. And I think anybody who is preaching that, you can't regain your standing with God because of the mistakes you made, I don't think that's correct.
Yes, and I would say that to me, mm-hmm. all the LDS standards of sexual requirements, they stem from this idea, even though...
Which idea?
The idea of the highest degree of glory in the celestial kingdom. Like if you want to enter that, you have, not only do you have to have 3 wives, but yeah, like that is, I think that's how, like that is what the early church believed. But I would say like, I think that most of sexual standards coming down from the apostles and the early church, that's kind of where they come from, even if they've morphed into what we now see as like a more acceptance. You know, I would say that's kind of an idea of Mormon, how I see Mormonism.
Yeah.
It's morphed into how can we make most people be accepted, essentially.
I think
which is fine.
Yeah.
And maybe it's better.
Yeah.
But I guess that would be my view of it. And I was just making an argument because you were saying you feel like most people can be forgiven. And I would agree with you generally, but that doesn't mean they'll get like the second anointing and be worthy to come into the presence of Jesus Christ. In earlier Mormon doctrine, that's how it would be thought of, I feel like. But
I would be curious also to see with the earlier kind of doctrine, how much of that is also influenced by the culture of the time. Because I feel like there, you know, in the 1800s, I think just having sexual relations if you weren't married was seen as a bigger no-no than it is now.
Oh, yeah.
And how that cultural lens also influenced certain revelation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And because I don't think revelation is dependent on culture, but I think that they interact with each other, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so I would be interested to see how much of that actually stands as doctrine still, or if it's like these men who were receiving, revelation from God were also fallible and heavily influenced by the time and the culture. And so I feel like with religion kind of in general, you have to look at patterns and what principles have stayed the same and which ones have changed or been tweaked, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I kind of get your point with the cultural times.
Yeah.
And to me personally, that's an overall argument against religion. But because it's like, obviously, like you had these cultural influences and everything on you at the time. Joseph Smith had them.
Sure.
He had these revelations.
Yeah.
Who knows? That's probably how it was for all through Christian history and everything. And the more society forces a person to change, well, their religious ideas and beliefs kind of merge with it. And so to me, that becomes more of an argument against religion.
So you feel like kind of because of the changes that seem to have taken place because of culture, it like dismisses the uniqueness of the revelation, because it doesn't seem like it's based off of a relationship between man and God, but it's more just influenced because of
it's so obvious that this person's ideas are coming from their culture and everything. Yeah. And if it was fine then, like if the sexual ideas then weren't true. Yeah. Like the ideas that Joseph Smith and Brigham Young had because of the culture, if those weren't true, and what our culture generally accepts today is true, then to me that's like religion is a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I guess for me, I'm like, I don't think that certain things have really changed with culture. I think some things have. Yeah. But I don't think all things have. And also, like you see changes throughout. Like if you're a believing Christian, you see changes throughout the Bible too. Like there was the law of Moses, and then Christ came and he like abolished that and created a higher law. And so I don't think that just because what would you say?
The culture.
Just because the culture is influencing, I wouldn't say that God doesn't have a hand in that. And I wouldn't say that small changes in revelation are then therefore like not validated just because.
Not from God. Not authentically from God.
Yeah, and I think that's just because revelation interacts with people and it interacts with their abilities and, the time that they're alive in. And so I think as long as like the basic foundational principles are staying the same, I think sometimes the way those things are acted out will shift.
Sure.
A little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know.
How do you feel like, am I asking too hard a question? So like, do you feel like this conversation has gone good?
I feel like it's gone good. I think the sexual topic, I'm not super prepared for that.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to keep this part in.
Yeah, let's just ask the viewers to forgive the sexual topic if we weren't too prepared. Yeah?
Sure, yeah.
Like, they gotta be nice.
Yeah, please be nice.
We don't want negative comments about our guest.
It's fine. Well, it's fine if they have negative comments. It's nice if you give constructive criticisms.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. If you bully in the comments, then I'm going to have to delete your comment.
Yeah. Or keep it, and I don't know. It's fine if people can comment when they want to comment. I think it's more helpful and productive if their criticisms are constructive and, it's a way that you can look at them and kind of take the feedback and learn from the feedback.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I kind of caught you off guard with the sexual stuff.
It's okay.
I guess to me it's
it kind of just led to that conversation.
Well, it's a good way to make, like, I could make the argument about like the dark side of human nature in a lot of other ways besides sexual tendencies, but
Sure.
the sexual tendencies are the
quicker way to grab the.
Yeah, it's the way for me to do it the fastest.
Sure.
And that's kind of my general argument against Mormonism. So that's kind of why I was talking about it first.
Sure, yeah.
But can I ask you kind of a weird question?
I don't know. It depends on what the question. I'm just kidding.
Do you think a Mormon girl would date me if they knew everything? Like, if I'm saying this stuff about Mormons, like I've done podcasts in the past where I'm shitting on Mormons.
Sure.
Do you think like they would stay in the church and date me? Just like, I don't care. I'm just wondering.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm there.
Well, I'm asking you because you were a Mormon girl.
Yeah, sure. I think it would be really hard to be in a relationship with somebody when you have such like kind of opposite views on things.
Yeah.
Especially because I think your belief system is kind of how you view the world and how you operate. And so if those systems are kind of opposite, I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen or that it couldn't happen, but I think it would be a challenge.
Well, they want to get married in the temple, right?
I mean, I would think if they're like, active members, that would be a goal that they would have. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but I know people who, they got married in the temple and then their partner left the church and they're still in the church. Like, I know that happens, but I know that it's also very challenging. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take a restroom break.
Okay. Sounds good. And scene. Okay, let me just check myself out real quick. Okay.
Looking good.
Thanks.
I'm telling you, if you're hot, it matters more than your argument.
Yeah, there you go. As long as you look nice, people will just take you more seriously.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I feel like in the LDS culture, being hot is so important.
Really?
Do you feel that, or?
I think it's in every culture. I don't know.
I agree. It's in every culture. Like, being attractive is important in every culture.
Yeah.
But I feel like to some degree in the LDS, it's like kind of important to the hierarchy.
To the hierarchy?
Yeah, like
Oh,
you will
well, it's
feel,
like you want to take care of yourself, like your body and your, right?
I
But
think that's important though. Like that's fair.
Yeah. But you think sometimes people take it to like an extreme?
I just, for some reason, like living here in Utah and everything, I feel like it's more important. Let me put it this way. In LDS culture, I almost feel like it's more important to be hot than it is to read your Book of Mormon.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that. I don't think that's right. Just because I think, like, if you go to any college town, I think they're young adults who are trying to impress their peers. You know what I mean? And there's lots of colleges here. And also, if you go to California, you've got a bunch of people who want to be famous actors, or whatever. So I don't think it's like a LDS thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's true.
It probably happens, but I don't think it's like because of the religion.
Yeah, I feel like, I guess I probably notice it more. Obviously, like, that's every culture.
Yeah.
Like, there's this certain group of people that are all trying to be the hottest.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's just a human thing. I don't think it's...
That's part of the reason why sometimes I'm like, you know what, I'm pretty sure we were just a bunch of apes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
We're just a bunch of animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like religion tries to help us get away from, our ape tendencies. But that's one of the most insane things for me. I believed in this idea of becoming a god so much that now I look back on it. Like, I was making decisions about whether I should, not let our house go into foreclosure or let it, based on my, I believed in it so much that when I was told to do that, then I just didn't ask questions, which is kind of insane. But just looking at religion in general and viewing the world and everything now, it's insane how much I'm just like, I think we're just a bunch of apes.
Yeah.
For this idea about evolution.
Yeah.
It almost seems like it might be right.
Yeah, well, I know, like, there are members of the church, and I'm not sure, I can't, like, claim that this is exactly what I believe, but I don't necessarily think that the idea of evolution opposes the belief of God. So I think science and religion, I don't know if I even want to say that's such a broad, like Christianity, what I believe to be true, work hand in hand. I don't think they oppose each other.
In the FLDS, we believe the Earth was 6,000 years old. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, only 6,000.
Did you believe that?
No, I that's never been preached to me in my wards. So
yeah, Dad would tell us like the parts of this earth may have been brought together.
Sure.
I've
heard that
from like parts of worlds that were millions of years old.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And that's why scientists measuring them might be accurate.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that science almost like confirms God in some ways, and I think a lot of times people view like scientific theory or like just what people are kind of discovering as being proof that there isn't a God. And I think John Lennox is like somebody who talks about this a lot. He's a mathematician, cool guy, and a Christian, and he talks about that kind of how like, I don't think that this is disproving God, just because we understand more than we used to doesn't mean like, oh, we understand this, so I guess God isn't real. Like, I think God plays a hand in our understanding, and why wouldn't he use those tools, kind of a thing.
Let's take this conversation back to where it was supposed to go.
Sure.
And
where was it supposed to go?
Well, it wasn't supposed to go so much into the sexual stuff, but that's one of the things that like interests me to some degree, like because it was so suppressed in my early life.
Yeah,
that's why I was asking about it.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to get to is I wanted to hear more about like when you were, because you grew up in the church, then you were like thinking about not being a part of it. I want to know like what was it that, for one, pushed you that far out, and then secondly, I want to know what brought you back.
Yeah.
I want to know, was it kind of an existential crisis? Was it more just comfort in the belief of what you grew up in?
Yeah.
What was it that brought you back, and what was it that pushed you out in the first place?
Sure.
Because you were talking about like some bishops.
Yeah. What pushed me out was the combination. I'm going to try and answer this part a little shorter, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, what kind of made me take a step back was I had experiences with some leaders in my ward. I was very close to them. I had some really negative experiences that made me kind of question, like, if you're a leader in the church, like, why are you behaving this way? That doesn't make sense to me. And then when I moved out, I had more interactions with some members of other wards who, it just felt like they were being very judgmental. And even like, I had a friend where I was working who was not a member, and he, smoked weed and stuff like that. And me and the girl I was living with, we became very good friends with him, and the other members of the church were shunning him, so much so that when we invited him to go do an activity with us, they would threaten to not go because I was just like, this is wild. Like, just because he believes differently than you, you're not going to like interact with him? Crazy. That was crazy to me.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of personal experiences I had. And then also I read Rough Stone Rolling. I was doing a bunch of research on Brigham Young. I was studying other religions and things like that. And so it kind of was just breaking down what I feel like was a childlike or fairy tale view of the world. That's kind of how I felt.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how close do you feel to Brigham Young?
How close to
I mean, with his idea and, him as a person.
I think he was a leader in a time that was very confusing.
Sure.
And had a lot of grit for the time. Like he was around when there was this old world converging with this new world. And, you have these different kind of nations or cultures or tribes fighting against each other. And like, it was a weird time to be a leader. I also think I struggle with Brigham Young. Like,
dude,
to be
he's
completely
a crazy guy,
honest.
Wasn't he?
I don't know. I think
I'm more acceptant of Brigham Young than Mormons are.
Yeah. More acceptant of him?
I feel
what do you mean?
that way,
Like
I feel like I can
relate to him more, or
I can understand why he did some of the things he did.
Sure. So can I, but I do think like he is a great example of a leader who also made mistakes.
Sure.
And so I guess that's kind of my
I think that's
feel of him, or like
that's the difference between me and Brigham Young, or me and Mormons, is when I look at Brigham Young, I'm not trying to justify him through a religious lens anymore. Mm-hmm. I used to. Mm-hmm. But I think that when one of the reasons LDS people do is they're trying to justify everything he did through their religion.
I don't think you need to. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't think just because somebody was a leader in the church, everything they did was correct.
Yeah.
And I think leaders in the church would also state that. Like I think President Nelson, he's passed away, but like I'm pretty sure he would admit, yes, I am a fallible human. Like, I make mistakes. I also try not to, and I try to, use God's teaching, but I'm not perfect either, And so that's my take on Brigham Young.
I feel like, and I do this too, you were saying there's some leaders that were doing wrong things that were kind of pushing you out of the church.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the things I do even is I have this secret hate of like something in me that I couldn't quite like put my hand on, but I'm just like, these fucking Mormons,
Yeah.
And when I hear about like a sexual abuse case, I'm like, see, whereas like if you look at the overall numbers, they're probably lower in the church than they are in other organizations, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's still like you can finally get your hand on something and let out some of your angry feelings.
Sure.
Well, do you feel that way about like people like me that we finally see a sexual abuse case, or like I hear you saying, there was these people doing a little bit wrong in the church, and I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
And so it makes you hesitant to like say more about it,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel more hesitant to talk about it because they're like people that I still know personally. And so I don't want to like give away so much information that somebody could watch this and figure out who I'm talking about. Because I think that's rude. And it doesn't have to do with sexual abuse or anything.
Yeah.
It has to do with like a betrayal kind of thing. So that's why I'm trying to be like decently.
No, yeah. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the things about me is I enjoy pissing people off. Whereas like I understand that like you would want to keep some of your friends.
Yeah.
This is why I have to invite people onto my podcast for friendship.
Yeah, it's not even that like I'm just trying to protect the people who I feel like wronged me. It's more like my reading on the situation, while it really injured me, they also have a reading on the situation. And so me going out and publicly like kind of shaming them in a way for what happened just really doesn't feel fair. And so that's kind of part of how I feel about it. But
that's the kind of people I want for friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like people that can understand that I made mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think just because people in my religion, like I had these experiences, I don't necessarily I feel like I could take those experiences and be like, this is why I left the church. Like, I feel like it was a big enough deal that people would look at me and be like, oh, you're totally valid in like wanting to leave because your leader did this thing. But I don't think that my leader was representing the church. Like, I think they are a human who made a mistake. I don't think it's the church's fault that there's imperfect people who make huge mistakes in their church, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the second question was,
do you feel like people do this a lot with the LDS church though?
Absolutely.
Where maybe they have some deep-seated anger. Maybe they left it and then they feel like they were betrayed, or their life, they didn't get their own identity as soon as they wanted it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it kept them from seeing what they now see. And so that's the true resentment.
Yeah.
But they have a hard time placing it.
Yes.
They have a hard time, like, they want to, like, say
they want to put it on something else.
They would love to be like, the church basically tried to murder me. That's what they want to say. That's how they feel.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah.
But so when they finally get something, they're like, yes.
Yeah, no, I think that totally happens. I think that happens in I think that happens at work, like you don't like your boss and you feel this like building resentment towards them. And then they finally do something where you can be like, see, that's exactly what I meant. I think that happens everywhere. I think what I feel bothered by is when people attribute somebody making a mistake in the church to the church then not being true. Like, if an atheist abuses somebody, I can't just be like, okay, I guess atheism isn't real then. Like, that's not logical. It's just not. And so I struggle when people basically chalk up them leaving the church to just like oh, I just had this really negative experience, which it makes sense sometimes. Like, I don't want to dismiss people who have had really terrible things happen to them, but I don't think it's logical to say like this belief system just isn't true because a person hurt me.
Yeah.
So
I think the underlying problem here, though, is people have a very difficult time seeing why the church, when they left, made them feel so angry.
Okay, and so then they kind of explain it as like, oh, this is why.
So they jump on the little things.
I see. Because they don't understand like what the issue was, the deeper issue maybe.
Yeah. So I know you were basically done talking about your little time leaving the church.
Oh, I mean, we can talk about more. I just thought I'd try and like not talk about it for 50 minutes or something.
Yeah. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how close does the LDS Church consider someone an apostate?
Yes, I believe you can.
What do you have to do to be an apostate? Like if I just left, well, now I'm inactive. Well, if I'm on my podcast, like saying things about the church, am I an apostate now?
I think that might go under the definition. I think what like some people get kind of like, what is it called? Wow, I'm just...
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It's excommunicated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Discommunicated.
I'm telling you, I think you need a little bit of alcohol. I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Basically, I think what happens where people say like they apostatized. Wow.
Apostatized. I'm telling you, there's
We're
something
really
in the air
good with
here.
Words right now.
There's something in the air in here.
Yeah, maybe we need to get up and do some jumping jacks or something.
No.
Yeah, so I think sometimes what happens is if somebody is claiming to be a member and then they are like kind of spitting false teachings, I think that can be considered apostatizing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what would like go under all of the definitions of what is apostatizing, but I would say that's probably one of the things.
Okay.
But yeah.
So you were more close to inactive than you were to
I don't think I was trying to preach like hate upon the church or anything like that. I think I was expressing frustrations for sure, but I wasn't going around like you know, people who believe in the church are messed up or whatever. I was not like that. I was more quiet, and I had definitely removed myself from being as close to, you know, LDS religion and participating in things. But I wouldn't call myself like an ex-Mormon or something like that. No.
Yeah. As a friend, what kind of advice would you give to me to get more Mormon friends that are like kind of like you and not like some of the other ones I've met?
How to make more friends?
No, how to make more Mormon friends.
Okay.
I guess I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out what percent of the church is a little bit more lenient like you are versus quite a bit more strict like some of the other ones I've met. I'm trying to figure out if it's like 50-50.
I don't know what the percentage would be. I don't know. I'd be interested to know what you mean by like lenient, because I think any follower of Christ should be able to have friends that don't believe the same thing they do. Sure. You know what I mean? I think where people have issues is a lot of times they turn people with differing views as bad guys. Yeah. Kind of. They're like, oh, they're bad guys. But I think you can have like a good faith relationship with people and respect each other and have differing views. And I think that is what LDS people should be doing, and I think that's what the gospel teaches too.
Yeah.
And so I can introduce you to some of my friends. I feel like I have a lot of friends who are members who are very, very kind and like have great relationships with people who think differently than them.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like a small percentage.
I feel like if I made a strong argument against Mormonism to a lot of people that I know personally, like I'm friends with them.
Yeah.
And maybe they would even come on the podcast.
Yeah.
The reason why I wouldn't dare though is because I'm afraid if I made a strong argument, I can clearly see that I could make an argument, but I'm afraid if I did, then it would ruin our friendship.
Yeah. No, I think there's totally people like that too. I think it's about your intention, really. You know what I mean? Like, I think if people are in a relationship with you and they feel like you are trying to just like manipulate them and like, you know, or if you feel that same way about me, you know, like I'm like, yeah, come over here or something, then I think people think you're being disingenuous. Like you're not being genuine. You don't actually want to build a relationship with that person. You just want to influence them.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember, like, if you want to actually build a good relationship with somebody, it shouldn't just be on like you making them more like you. Like does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
but see your view on that.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like you're a much more chill Mormon.
I feel like my gospel experience has taught me that. So I don't feel like I don't know. If you really look at what good members of the church believe, I think that's what they believe, and I think that's what the theology teaches. Like you need to expand your knowledge. You need to ask questions. Like it's not a bad thing, and you need to build relationships with people who are different than you. Like that's very important, because I think any fundamentalist in any topic is like, I'm going to surround myself with people who think the exact same as me. And I think that is not healthy. You know, I think it's so good. Like, I think a lot of your criticisms over culture in the church is a very positive thing. I do, because I think it makes people aware of where they're going wrong so they can correct themselves and try and do better, you know?
Sure.
And I think that's how people should be looking at others who believe differently than them. I think they should be trying to build healthy relationships, you know, unless the person is like really out to get them, then of course it's like, I need to set a boundary, right?
Yeah.
Or if like we found a topic that it's like, this is just, you know, too controversial and we care more about our relationship with each other than like winning an argument, then I think it's like, okay, we're going to put a boundary there, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So when you were kind of out of the church, what's the most out of the church thing you did physically, not like spiritually or mentally, like physically? Like you weren't drinking alcohol or anything. Well, you weren't going down to Las Vegas or anything like that.
I think in some ways I didn't feel the need to, because I didn't feel like some of the standards I had were just because of my like belief in the religion. I felt like I valued certain things like almost despite how I grew up. It's like, I see the value in not just getting blackout drunk, or, you know, like I don't feel the need to, just because I maybe don't believe this anymore, drink alcohol. Like I don't think it's gonna provide more for me than I need it to, kind of a thing. And so I don't know. I guess in some ways I kind of got more into like hippie dippy things.
Okay.
I was interested in like, you know, spiritualism a little bit and just like stuff like that.
It's hard to get away from spirituality. I feel like after you've been in Mormonism, it's kind of hard to get away from spirituality.
I really think like humans are kind of just designed to have an inclination towards that. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think if you aren't, you know, if you leave one religion, you kind of find another one, even if it's atheism. Like that just seems to kind of be, you need to be able to fill that void with something. And
you know
so,
what I kind of think
know.
about that is, in order to deal with the truth about death,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have some sort of, it's so hard for humans to accept it
Yeah.
that our biology has made justifications through spirituality.
That's really interesting. Yeah. That's a really, I think that's a fair argument.
I mean, I've just been thinking about it a lot. Like,
Yeah.
why are we so drawn to conclusions that we can't clearly see and process?
And so you think it's almost like we have developed this, like, almost like a survival mechanism for understanding it.
For truth we can't accept.
That's interesting.
If a truth is so difficult to accept, we feel a spiritual feeling about it that's much more comforting, that doesn't necessarily have any proof. It feels to me like that's true about so many different religions. And like, if you look at most of them, almost always it's trying to get around a truth that we just don't want to accept. And maybe that is necessary. I don't know. But let's go back to your...
You're good at keeping us on track here. We just kind of are like, yeah, this over here, this over here.
Yeah, you keep giving me a lot of ideas, so
Sorry.
thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So you decide at some point,
Yeah.
you need to go back to the church. Are you depressed? Are you feeling like you're doing the wrong thing? Are you feeling any guilt? Like, what is it that pulls you back?
Me back.
Like,
yeah.
what changes your mind?
Yeah. So after I moved out, I moved back in to my family's house. During this kind of period of like, I do not know what's going on here. And what's kind of interesting is I never felt like I lost. I think sometimes what happens is when people leave like the LDS religion, they're kind of like, okay, if this isn't true, nothing is true. Mm-hmm. And I never felt like I really got, like I felt that way, but I don't feel like I got as far that way, because I was like, you know, even if I don't think this religion is true, there are still like moral structures that I just can't like turn away on, basically. Anyways, so I was kind of trying to figure out like, okay, if I don't believe in this religion, what do I believe in, type of a thing. Yeah, so while I was living at home, I totally had a month where I didn't like leave my house, and I like slept all the time. It was really hard for me, because I just also at that stage of life, it's like, what do I do with my life? Like, what is my career going to be? Where am I supposed to go? Kind of a thing. And I really appreciated my parents, because they didn't force anything on me in that period. They weren't like, oh, well, you need to, you know, go back to church. It's just because you're, you know, doubting, or they weren't like that at all. In fact, my dad is like really into psychology and stuff like that too. He's kind of similar to me. And so I think he just kind of saw like, she is wrestling with something and she needs to figure it out, which I think is really amazing that he was able to see that, and, you know, they gave me the space. But I feel like when I decided to kind of come back into the church, it wasn't because I was just looking for comfort. I feel like it was because I saw structures in life that I felt like had serious meaning to them. And I felt like my idea around religion had really shifted and become kind of more like a grown-up version of religion. And from that experience, I felt like it was still logical and rational to believe in the way that the LDS theology is structured. And so it was definitely a slow process, and it didn't even start with me like starting to pray again. It started with me like, okay, I need to clean my room, you know, like, okay, now I'm cleaning my room. Okay, now I need to go out and find a job and like, it was very much from like I should be behaving as a human that's productive in the world, not just like I should be in this church's religion again. And so
the more you tell me about your dad, the more I kind of like him.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. He's a really cool guy.
The reason why I want to push you a little bit on this, reason why you went back, is because I have come to believe more and more watching humans and religion. Yeah. They do not go back to religion. They do not make life decisions because they're logical. They do it. They may use logic in the decisions, but they're pushed first through their emotional and
tendencies, or
just like their needs and their human nature. Like there first arises a need. First arises depression. It sounds to me like you were losing discipline, you were losing motivation. Yeah. And it seems to me like there became greater pain in continuing in that life, and you found more meaning. You felt like the way back to a productive life was through the Mormon religion that you grew up in, which makes sense, right?
Yeah. I think
would that be a fair?
Sense. I think that people probably go back to something because it gives their life structure. I think that's an aspect of it for sure. But I think also for me, it wasn't just going back to what I used to believe. It felt more like moving forward and leaving these old beliefs kind of behind, is how it felt to me.
You felt like you gained a greater understanding of Mormonism.
Yeah, I feel like before I felt like, prophets can't be fallible, right? That's how I felt before. And then afterwards it was like, no, God gives revelation through fallible humans. Like, mistakes are made. That doesn't mean God doesn't exist, if that makes sense. And so I feel like it just, my version or my belief system shifted, and it wasn't just based off of Mormon religion. It was also based off of Christianity, and comparing kind of my options of how I want to operate in the world. Having a fully secular belief system, to me, it doesn't make sense as much logically, that nothing can then become something and here we are in the world. That seems less logical than, there's a creator who created us and now we're here in the world. The process made more sense and makes more sense. And I think it's a more, I guess, rational way to view the world.
Sure. So I would generally agree that people that lose structure and can't find their way, I was very much this way. Yeah. When I left the FLDS. Yeah. And this was one of the things that made me think about religion so hard. Yeah. Was I became the same way, which pushed me back.
Into
often.
FLDS?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think that's a really good take.
And you can see, to me, when I look at your story, I see the exact same thing happening, but the LDS isn't something that the general world hates on to the degree that they hate on the FLDS. So my dad, he did something so bad that it made it basically had to break this idea that I could go back. Okay. The FLDS was so bad that
you couldn't really explain it away, kind of a thing. Yeah.
So when I left, I had that very same thing happen. I was going off the deep end. I was losing motivation for anything. Sure. I started getting into some porn. Mm-hmm. I started doing all these unproductive things. Yeah. My life was just going to hell. Yeah. And it was obvious that I was losing any kind of discipline or reason to be disciplined. Yeah. And so the way I would fix that is to go back to my beliefs. Sure. I could have, like, even logically, it made more sense for me to go back to my beliefs and to actually escape.
You had to push past that kind of. Yeah.
That's the true escape, I would say. When people say I escaped, I would say that's the psychological escape you're trying to get past.
Yeah.
You have to kind of go through that, face the truth that your religion might not be true.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, FLDS people, they'll turn to another religion, they'll turn to another, and a lot of them won't too.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I wanted to understand why I wanted to go back to those beliefs. Why did I tend to make those beliefs my logical conclusions? Why?
What were the beliefs that you were going back to, if you don't mind me asking?
I would say, like, LDS people, a lot of them like to assume that the FLDS is so much different. But it's very, very
you
similar.
read the Book of Mormon,
Right. So that's what it would be. It would be like going back to reading my Book of Mormon. That helps me, like, get back on track every morning.
Yeah.
It's attending the things I should on Sunday.
So do you feel like those were beliefs you went back to or behaviors? Do you know what I mean? Because you're saying, like, well, I went back to these beliefs, but you're giving, like, I read the Book of Mormon, I went back to church. And I feel like were there actual, like, thoughts of, like, oh, I believe in this thing, or it was more just like a behavioral, this is comfortable to me. So do you hear what I'm asking?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. I would say it was like, I'm kind of doubting religion. I'm doubting everything I'm doing. Well, initially, it wasn't even that I was doubting religion.
Yeah.
It was just that I wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
And so that would have been me not becoming an apostate, but just becoming inactive, right?
Yeah.
It's at that point that you start becoming super lazy. You start needing something to keep you back on track.
You need some type of structure. Yeah.
Right. That's the point that you might go back to the behaviors you're talking about.
Yeah.
But now, do that a few times.
Yeah.
Go back out a few times because in doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah.
Like in the FLDS.
Sure.
It's bad enough it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you go out, you do that a few times.
Yeah.
Then you start asking, is this true?
Yeah.
Why is this true?
Okay.
So that comes the point where you start logically questioning everything.
Right.
And the deeper you go into that, the deeper you go into depression and reason to not do anything.
Yeah, no,
and
I
nihilism.
agree. Yeah, no, totally. I think that's like a common experience that people have when they lose the structure or kind of the foundation of the belief that they're basing everything off of, right? Because you were in this place where you're like, okay, I'm doing these actions and they feel incorrect to me, so I'm going to stop doing those actions. But once you've stopped doing those actions, you can't just sit there, right? Because then you're just not doing anything. And so it's like your options are either I need to go back to my previous actions or I need to deconstruct and then find new actions, right? Which I feel like you've done, right? So you left the FLDS, you had a period of deconstruction and that's probably something that's still ongoing in some ways.
Sure.
But you have now found meaning through kind of a different structure and a different way of belief, right?
Yeah.
So something kind of filled that gap for you.
Yes, but I would say, like, the logical beliefs that you have to question leaving the FLDS are very, very similar to the logical beliefs you need to question to leave Mormonism.
Yeah.
It's just they're not as rigid. They're not as rigidly ingrained into you. And so in some sense, it's easier to question them, but it's harder to see through them.
Yeah, sure. You would almost, maybe your argument would be they're more movable. And so because they're not as like fundamentalist, it makes it easier for them to be kind of like okay, like I could see it either way. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, and they come from a group of so many different ideas, so many different, like, there's, 15 million Mormons, and they've all got these different kind of ways, a bunch of different, small podcasters and leaders that they've struggled with different things, and they've come to different conclusions, and it's easier to just, like, find a justification to justify your beliefs or to make them the most logical in your mind, versus if, like, the LDS was some file
if it was more extreme, it would be easier to leave it.
Yes, it would be easier to, it would be much harder to justify that is the most logical belief
because it
system.
just seems like outright incorrect.
Yeah.
I understand totally what you're saying. I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. I think maybe what's different, or what would, I don't know if this would be an argument, just a thought, like with our theology, I think there's a reason why it hasn't fallen in the way that the FLDS did. And I think it's because there are true principles that are the foundation of the religion. I think then it kind of goes like this, where people are interpreting things and stuff like that. But I feel like the foundation of belief is truthful and strong enough that it holds, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't even make the argument that the FLDS theology has fallen.
Yeah. You think it's just more like the way that the culture was, or? Because I guess for me, like the polygamist theology, the way that it was being acted out in the FLDS culture seems like incorrect to me,
Yeah, I see your point, but I would say that having, like, grown up on the words of like the original prophets,
right?
It's hard for me to see how I see how the FLDS went wrong in some sense.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to see that the LDS Church is aligned with its foundations and theology more than the FLDS.
Yeah, I'd
even
be
though the
curious to hear.
FLDS went off the rails. To me, I'll tell you what it looks like.
Yeah.
The FLDS appears, and other groups appear to be more theologically aligned with the foundations of Mormonism.
Okay.
But they seem to be losing, like, they're not working, right?
Yeah.
An LDS person, they make the argument that because their group is holding together and growing, then it must be right. To me, well, that's I've heard this argument a lot.
Sure, yeah. Sorry, I was nodding my head like, I don't think that's a good argument, but continue, yeah.
Well, it's the idea that
people do say that.
Your groups are falling apart.
Yeah. Well, since ours is still around, it must be true. Okay. Is that kind of?
And my view of that is, you had leaders, not all of them, but you had a few that did not care about your religion. They cared about making the church more popular. And because of that, your church continues to grow.
Yeah.
Your church has become more accepted by more people, and it looks to me like you're determined to continue to do that, to continue to make it more and more acceptable to people.
Yeah.
And it will continue to grow to the degree that you view it more importantly as a successful organization, more than being true to your religion, then to that degree, it looks to me like it's been more successful.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I just don't think there's enough evidence kind of to prove your point, just because I think there are some principles that have not changed, like, at all, and I don't think they're popular to believe right now either. You know, like marriage should be between a man and a woman. You know, like that's not that we're just outright like, oh no, if you know, are a man who wants to have a relationship with a man, you're going to hell or something. I don't think we claim that either, but there are certain principles and things that the LDS church has stood by forever that I don't feel like has changed. And so I don't think the claim of like it's just based off of, you know, us wanting to be popular holds with like the evidence that we have, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I also see like your point of like, well, yeah, some things have changed, but I guess my point to that would be I think the things that have changed not because we've removed a principle, but because we've gained more understanding and we've made it more, what would the word be? We've aligned it more with a true principle and removed kind of the fluff that's like, this isn't actually important, if that makes sense.
So you feel like from the time of Joseph Smith, a bunch of prophets had things wrong, but
I feel like
as time has gone on,
yeah,
the church has become more and more and more aligned with the true principles of Jesus Christ. That's what you feel like. You feel like the evolution through culture has pushed it to be more aligned with...
I wouldn't say it's like perfect, but I think the idea of like continuing revelation allows for the changes that do align it more, if that makes sense. Like I think when Joseph Smith was, you know, translating the Book of Mormon and just barely figuring out like what the theology of Mormonism is, I think he was also a fallible man who probably misinterpreted some things. And I think the same thing goes from Brigham Young. But I think like the further along we get, the more kind of direct of an understanding we have gotten, I think.
Yeah.
That's kind of my opinion, but
I do think that like somebody like my dad, he had a lot of, I think, personal problems, but man, that he was obsessed with Joseph Smith. Like,
really?
Yeah, like he probably knew more history and facts just off the top of his head than probably most even historians.
Yeah.
He like even knew all the anti-Mormon literature.
Wow, yeah.
And so he was pretty well versed in all that stuff.
Yeah. I guess I would say like even with him knowing as much as he did, I would think that he also put his own interpretation on certain things that happened and the meaning of those things, and he got some of that wrong. You know what I mean?
Oh, no doubt.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I guess my biggest problem with that view is, just like you said, I don't have evidence that the church has just become more popular.
Sure.
I would also argue that there's also no evidence in the opposite direction.
Well, see, I wouldn't say that you have no evidence. I feel like the argument you're making makes sense because you're seeing a trend or a behavior, right? And you're coming to conclusions about that.
Yeah, I was reading about this just the other day, so I'm going to get your thoughts on it.
Sure.
So the church, like, it condemned any kind of like a tank top, I think. Is that right? Like it discouraged any kind of tank top thing with for the undergarments.
But, like as a garment design or? Yeah.
But then they changed it to be, didn't they?
Right. Yeah. So there's been a recent change with the garments, like the sacred clothing that we wear under our clothes. But they've changed the design of it.
And I get your point that might not be a principle.
Yeah.
But it's insane to me that for 100 years, like it was like no, and then the prophet comes out and it's like, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Well, I can give a little bit of context to that actually. Which, like, once again, I don't feel like I'm trying to, like, convince you of anything, but I'm going to give you the information I have, and you can kind of choose what you want to do with that, right?
Yeah.
So the garments,
I can choose how I make it make sense into my belief system. I'm just kidding.
Well,
that's not an open mind.
Yeah. I think I think anything I say could be taken as an excuse.
Sure.
And I think I don't feel like my thoughts are invalid or just made to be an excuse. You know, like if this religion is true, it's not an excuse. It's a point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the garments used to be to here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that had to do with the culture, what we wore.
Yeah, that's what I wore.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's crazy. But I think with that, our garments are not just about modesty. They're a reminder of the covenants we've made in the temple. And they are kind of a reminder of, like, Christ, basically, and what Christ did for us. That's what our garments are meant to represent. And that's what I would say is, like, the doctrine or the principle, right? It's also important to, be a modest person and kind of not just show your body to whoever you want. That's, like, a part of it, not as big of a part of it. So to me, the principle is still there with the change of the garments, which I was actually surprised at how little the change is, I think.
I wouldn't know, but you would.
Yeah. Anyways, so I don't feel like just because that was changed, the principle is not still there. Like, yeah, they still remind me of my covenants and of Christ. And so I don't feel like the applicable change to that principle or doctrine or covenant is dismissed because the application is a little bit different now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like in a lot of the points you're making, I feel like I can make a counter argument. I just don't know how like far it's gonna get us.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I do want to. We've been here for a while, but I do want to talk a little bit about Christianity. See,
okay.
I don't even necessarily know that I'm any kind of Christian.
Yeah, I'm really curious to, like, get to the bottom of your beliefs in some ways, which maybe another time, but
yeah. See, I'm not some guy now that, as crazy as it is different from who I used to be, I couldn't imagine myself a couple of years ago as someone questioning Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That'd be awful in my mind back then.
Mm-hmm.
But now I do.
Sure.
And what we were talking about earlier is Mormonism a good form of Christianity?
Yeah.
See, a lot of Christians don't even feel like
Mormons are
Christians. And I listen to some of these debates on YouTube about Mormons versus Christians.
Yeah.
And I actually see a lot of points the Christians make, or the Mormons make.
Oh, okay.
I find a lot of valid points that Mormons make.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
In the, like, are Mormons Christian debate?
Yeah, and just like the overall theological debate and the debate about Mormonism.
Yeah.
I feel like if you believe in Christ, then Mormons have some good points.
Yeah, like the arguments that Christians use against Mormons don't really hold in the Christian belief, I would say. Like some of the things about witnessing Christ, versus the witnesses of the Book of Mormon. It's like, how can you criticize one and not the other? Like, you're using the same argument for both.
I feel that Christians, in the same way I feel that Mormons kind of squirm around my arguments against Mormonism.
Yeah. Do you feel like I've squirmed around?
I feel like you have considered them.
Yeah.
Like understood them.
Yeah.
Whereas I think most Mormons actually, in their mind, they avoid actually understanding them. That's been my experience a lot of times.
That's interesting, yeah.
Like,
I think I think probably more Mormons than maybe you've interacted with are kind of more under, like, take my approach. But I have also seen that of, like, if I ask a hard question, they don't want to consider it because for some reason it would make something fall in their belief or something,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's like a fear-based response.
I don't know if it's because I was in some sense, I was like the most devout Mormon, that I somehow get into conversations with a lot of devout Mormons, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just managed to do that a lot.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why. Christians.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to figure out is it my bias because I grew up in Mormonism and I understand the doctrine well enough that even when Mormons are making a point to Christians, I get their point very well. I get why they're making it. I'm trying to figure out if it's because I grew up in Mormonism and maybe my biases lean more that way, like deep in my nervous system and everything. Is that why I feel like the Mormons have good point against the Christians? Or do they actually have a good point? And that is not as easy, I feel like, for me to sort out.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I try to pick apart so hard is my own biases.
Yeah, no, because I remember when we first talked, you were mentioning, like, you want to be a person who basically, if you hear something that is counter to your belief, it doesn't shake you, right?
Yes.
Like, you want to be a person who is open to possibilities and who can hear things that are challenging and kind of digest them in a productive way, right?
Yes, and I think the reason why is because I think the lack of the ability to do that is why my dad went down such a dark path.
Interesting.
And
because he was closed off.
Absolutely.
Interesting, yeah. No, so I think my thought on, like, is it your bias or not? Maybe. But I think you'd also have to consider, like, what is the process that you're using to come to the conclusion that it's a good argument, right? Because if it is just like, oh, well, I just kind of like the Mormons, so that's why I like their opinion, I think that's incorrect. And I think anyone who's like, they have a good argument because I kind of like them, like, that's just, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think you'd kind of have to look at, okay, is the point they're making valid? Does it make sense? Like, and I think if you still feel like, okay, that seems like a good point, then I don't think it's a bias. I think it's just you're using a good process to come to logical conclusions about an argument. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think anyone who gets to a point where they're like, oh, I agree with him because he believes the same thing I do, like, that's just not a good way to view the world. It would be the same with politics, right? Like, if I'm a Republican and I get to the point where, like, I am so, like, ingrained in my belief that anything somebody says, if they are on my same side, I'm just like, yeah, great. I've lost my, like, my thinking abilities.
If the other side does the exact thing your side does, but now you condemn it.
Exactly. Exactly.
I know. This has been one of the most insane things about every area of life.
Yes.
And to me, my conclusion after coming out of the FLDS has been mostly that humans love to be right and they hate changing their ways.
Yeah.
And that's basically sums up every political or religious or any other organization.
Yeah, I think.
And even still to this day, I get talking with my brothers about something or anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can I prove my point?
Yes.
I'm not like, how can we figure out the truth?
Yes.
It's
yeah.
How can I prove my point?
I think that's such a great point. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that, like, I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like we get along pretty good, is because I see in you the ability of, like, okay, we're trying to find truth here. You know what I mean? I'm not just gonna criticize you because I hate your culture or something, right? Like I want to understand. We're trying to understand so we can come to, and that's one of the importances, like that's why it's so important to not become so ingrained in your like tribe that you can't have productive conversations with other people who don't believe the same as you, you know, because there is truth to what, there's probably truth to what they believe also. And if you can combine those, right? Like it seems like you're going to be further along the right path in a way.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess that's another reason why I a lot of times question religion altogether.
Sure.
Because we are so tribal that I'm like, how did we not come from evolution?
Yeah.
And you watch like, you read about the different books on evolution, the things that the scientists and stuff have kind of figured out, and you're like, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And to me, we as living organisms here on the earth, we have this idea, and once you're to the position I am, I feel like the idea that some God is going to come and transcend you into something else is insane.
Yeah.
Like to me, I look back on it and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I can't believe I was so into that.
Yeah.
And
well, see, oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it feels to me like as humans, spirituality or religion or anything, we appeal to what does not come to a logical conclusion more than we appeal to what does come to a logical conclusion.
Yeah.
And that's how we're wired.
Yeah. I think for me, like, I think what you're saying, yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to it. I think one of my issues is the conclusion of consciousness basically not being able to be explained from a secular belief doesn't make sense to me. You know, for me, I'm like, how can I find a belief system that feels like it explains science and evolution? It includes that, but it also includes this thing that doesn't include, which is like consciousness and objective morality and things like that. And so I guess from looking at the options, right, I feel like the belief system that I have, that I'm in, that I don't want to even say developed, but in some ways you do develop it. I feel like that has been able to bring all of the questions I have to the most satisfying answer, if that makes sense. So, because that is my issue. It's like, yeah, you could, you know, like, I'm not saying that evolution didn't happen. I don't think that the theology of Mormonism like cancels out that possibility. But also, how do you explain like the idea of conscious humans, like basically the brain versus the mind? Yeah. And I feel like there's not many answers to that from a secular belief as much as...
I agree that the conscious experience is a problem that secular belief doesn't solve. And I don't really... Like, I can't make good arguments on this right now. I just don't know enough. But I think that most of my arguments against, like, if I was to continue to make arguments against your points about Mormonism and stuff, I think they would generally be towards deeper human biases that I've discovered in myself. Yeah. And I think I would make those arguments by telling you stories about my personal beliefs and how I figured out that those were deep rooted biases and preconceived notions I had about the world that led me to logical conclusions about different things. Sure. I think that would kind of be a big part of my argument. Yeah. And I think I kind of laid out the basis, and I think your response was fairly reasonable. But I think the biggest problem I have with Mormonism right now is that it doesn't give near the outlet that I think is necessary for the dark side of human nature.
Okay, yeah. So you feel like because of how the religion is structured, it dismisses certain human behaviors that need to be acknowledged.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that where I see the theology, I just think there's such a big difference between the teachings of the church and how flawed humans interpret it. Honestly, I do. And I feel like if you look at the Book of Mormon and this continual cycle of these, civilizations rising and falling and repenting and rising and falling, like, I don't feel like the theology is showcasing a version where we hide the natural man. I think it says, like, you have natural impulses that are incorrect. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't just go and sleep around with everybody. There's reasons for that, right?
Sure.
Just because you feel that doesn't mean it's correct.
Right.
I don't think that the theology preaches perfection either. Like, I don't think it's saying you have to basically only behave correctly and never make a mistake. I think it shows the opposite. I think it shows we make mistakes. We continually, what's the scripture where it's like a man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, or what, like there's lots of scriptures. There are speeches and talks given where they're talking about this is a process, and I think it even showcases like you hiding these things is going to create a bigger issue. And that's why we need to, within reason, be open about what we struggle with so we can then improve. It doesn't want you to be hypocritical of like, I'm preaching that I'm perfect, but then I go and watch porn all the time. Like, that's not what it wants you to do.
I get your argument, but I would say generally the thing that I get from Mormonism is not deal with the natural man. It's overcome the natural man. And I just like through watching religion in the different ways I have and through my own experience, I believe that's a core reason why so many bad things, so many of these splinter groups do the things they do.
Yeah. So do you think the statement of like overcoming the natural man is a negative one? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's saying overcome, and I think the general doctrine of Mormonism is overcome. Yeah. It's not deal with and put yourself in a good position to where these things manifest in a healthy way to society in general. Yeah. It is saying that to some degree, but only in the way that get rid of them entirely. You know what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying. I think it's kind of hard to argue it because it does kind of feel like personal, like opinion. You know what I mean? Because for me, in my opinion, or the way that I view, there's people. I go to church on Sundays and sometimes I hear people speak and I am like, we believe in a different God. Like me and you, we do not believe in the same God. I think that happens a lot. And I'm not saying that I have like all the knowledge or whatever, but I think like from how I read the commandments and the theology of the religion, I don't think it's saying like overcome this thing right now. I think it's saying this is the goal, right? Like we want to be as good of people as we can be. We want to be able to be high functioning people in society. We want to live good lives. We want to overcome our vices, but I don't think the theology preaches be perfect now. I think it preaches work on yourself. Yeah. Right? Like improve the mistakes that you make, improve upon them. So
yeah, it's a fair argument, and I guess it's just how you interpret everything, versus like kind of what you see leaders interpret and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it is insane to me, like how crazy of a guy Joseph Smith was.
Yeah.
I hear these arguments people make, like Joseph Smith made up the Book of Mormon. And I'm like, dude, that makes me think he was even smarter.
I know, yes. No, I totally agree.
I'm like, no, I really am interested in this guy.
Yeah, well, I think there's some arguments kind of back to what we talked about this a little bit. There's some arguments that people make that I'm like, are you serious? Like, have you actually looked at this with like, because it's a pretty impressive book. You know what I mean? It would be hard to just pull that out of your noggin. And so, anyways.
If he pulled that out of his noggin, he is a genius. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think.
No, I agree. There are names and locations that he got correct that had not even been discovered at that time in the world, and it's like then decades later they find out that what he this name that he came up with is actually found in these old scrolls in this area that he said they came from. It's just, there's some crazy stuff that it's like you can't necessarily just dismiss this book or what he did as being nonsense. Like there are some interesting things in that book that you can't just dismiss, if that makes sense.
I think that like the geography and everything, all that stuff can be debated. Mm-hmm. The thing that's hard to dismiss for me is the book.
Yeah.
Like this guy just like wrote, like he looked into his hat when and he's like 20 and he just like
yeah
it's
pretty
kind
cool.
of funny. Like it's like I don't know what to think. I'm definitely not ready to believe in Mormonism,
sure,
but it's an interesting phenomenon to me.
Well, and I just think that if anything, your ability to not just outright dismiss everything is a really good skill to have, and I think people should work on developing the ability to have to not believe something but still acknowledge like validity behind other things, and having a more dynamic relationship with how you view the world feels like a better way to view the world.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, though, is I grew up studying the Book of Mormon.
Right.
And there is, contrary to, Christians' general arguments against the Book of Mormon, like, there's deep biblical lessons that aren't so apparent if you're just skimming the book.
Yeah.
Like, there's a deep lesson right there.
Yeah.
That is talking about some deep parts of human nature.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you can't just dismiss that.
It's like if he did make this book up, there was an insane amount of thought into that paragraph right there.
Right.
That has some deep ideas, even if they're incorrect, about human nature. Like people study a Bible verse and they're like, this is so deep. Has something insane about human nature and about, God or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the Book of Mormon is actually very similar.
Yeah.
Like if Joseph Smith was pulling that kind of thing out of his head,
he must have had a time machine or something.
It's insane.
Come up with that
in some sense.
Yeah, no, and I think you can say the same thing. Like that's one of the reasons why I've mentioned him before. John Lennox. I think you would get a kick out of listening to him because he'll talk to atheists. Like he talks to a lot of them, Peter Atkins and different people. And he is so good at being like, yeah, that is a really good point. Like I think that is something we should explore and not just opposing somebody's views because they're different than his. And I think that's a great place to
Well, I think that one
operate.
of the things that makes a human come to the realization that they need truth over being right. Mm-hmm. I think that small lessons can happen, but it's so deep within us. I feel like you almost need to come to a point of near death from your beliefs or something.
Yeah.
To realize the extent of that within. Like me, just like I the more I learn about myself, the more I see that, more than I see any belief or anything else. I see that, the struggle to hold on to myself, the struggle to be right, so deep, like I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it feels like I've been trying to learn belief system, and I've been trying to sort out religions and make different arguments about Joseph Smith and against him and Christianity and all these things. But that's what I've learned.
Yeah. It's almost like people would benefit from doing a little bit more self-reflection instead of just going and trying to prove everyone else wrong or something. Yeah,
but it's like, I don't even know how someone comes to terms. It's like you can't see it until it almost kills you. I don't know. It's and I'm sure there's some people that just naturally see it better than others.
Yeah, probably. I think some people maybe put a little more energy into kind of like blotting out those issues within themselves. Yeah. For sure.
I feel like you're one of those people.
Thanks. I feel like you're one of those people too. So,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to touch on before we end the podcast?
I don't know. I mean, I just think that I think this was a good conversation. I don't think either of us got everything right, and I think it's important to be able to have these types of conversations so we can come to better conclusions that are based around the correct things. And so I appreciate this opportunity.
Do you think Mormons can joke as good as people that aren't in Mormonism? I feel like Mormons can't take a joke as good.
I actually feel like I'm really bad at joking, and I don't know if that's because of my religion, but I just take people really literally sometimes. I don't know if you've noticed this, but sometimes people try and say a joke to me, and I'll be like, you're right, I am that way. And they're like, no, that was a joke. And I was like, oh, yeah. So I don't know. I know a lot of really funny Mormons who are way better at that than me. So sure. I think it's a lot more of a dynamic thing. But yeah, I'm a logical person. So sometimes if someone's being sarcastic with me, I do not catch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope you don't take the jokes I said in the podcast seriously today.
Oh no, I thought it was a good combo. So.
Okay. Everybody like and subscribe. You think it's worth subscribing, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think Jaden brings up topics and questions to things about religion that are really beneficial for people to be aware of. And I think it's good to hear someone criticize your belief, because I think he brings up good points that people should consider. So
yeah. Sometimes I make this joke on my podcast that I'm the prophet. You heard me do that?
I heard you say that the other day.
Does Mormon, is that offensive to Mormons?
I mean, I think you're saying it to be offensive, but,
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know if it's...
I feel like I'm saying it just to joke around.
Sure.
But I didn't know how offensive. I didn't... In my religion...
Yeah, it would be
how
dare you?
Yeah, I couldn't say that back then. And so, I feel like I don't know if in Mormon religion, I feel like that's also not something I should joke about.
I feel like most people would kind of just roll their eyes. I think they'd see that you're just kind of being funny,
Yeah,
but
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would depend on your intention behind the joke, I guess. Yeah.
Do you want people to follow you anywhere?
As long as they don't attack me too much.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have conversations with people if I love talking about religion and theology, and so if people want to talk to me about that, that's great. If they have points they would like to make to me, I think that's great. But if they're just going to be bullies, then I don't
if you came on the podcast, if you wanted to mention your social media or business, if you don't want to, that's great. I just wanted to make sure we gave you an opportunity.
Sure. Yeah. My Instagram is olivia.s.olsen. So.
Yeah. Make her famous.
Make me famous. Yeah. Or not, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody like and subscribe. Make sure you guys are doing exactly what me and Olivia told you to do here today, which is basically to be perfect humans. And like and subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next podcast. Peace out.
Peace.